So for folks unfamiliar with Wealthfront, just want to kind of level set on what we do. We're really trying to be a full suite wealth manager for, largely people 40 or under. And so we offer a range of features from investing to banking services. We even allow you to borrow money using your portfolio as collateral. And this year, what we've been particularly focused on is really allowing clients to have more flexibility in their portfolios. And just for some context for those who may not be familiar with our historical approach to investing, we had traditionally taken a very much an approach of trying to force you to eat your broccoli, so to speak. So very heavy-handed on how we were approaching recommending investment allocations, and we really traditionally had not allowed a lot of flexibility. But what we've heard from our clients, which I think is a great testament to the work that we've done, is that folks really want more flexibility because they're feeling more confident in their knowledge on the market. And so we definitely want to be the place to allow that to happen. And we think we're the best place to offer that because we really are a fiduciary advisor. And so that means that we are legally obligated to show you what's in your best interests, which is something that you don't necessarily get with trading apps or other services out there. And so you can always be sure that you'll get the right context in the Wealthfront platform on how does your investment strategy actually impact your long term. And so it's sort of through this lens that we've been exploring a lot of other options. And I don't want to bury the lead. So with that, I'll let Dan Slate, who is a product manager at Wealthfront and actually is working on a lot of products under this framework, as well as the recent launch that we announced yesterday. So Dan, I'll kick it over to you just to give us a high level of what we did launch yesterday and dig into the details a little bit.
Cool. Thanks, Kate. Yeah, so yesterday we were excited to launch hundreds of new ETF options, and included in that was two cryptocurrency trusts, which allow people to get exposure to Bitcoin or Ethereum in their Wealthfront portfolio. And they can either add these to their existing diversified portfolio, or if they want to keep it separate from their diversified portfolio, open a second account with us and add them and invest in them there. And so this is, as Kate said, an extension of our customization features that we launched a few months ago to give customers more control over what they choose to invest in at Wealthfront.
Thanks, Dan. And so I'll loop in Tony because I think some of the questions we've been getting, Tony, are how should people be thinking about this? Should they be using these products? Should they just stick with the classically recommended Wealthfront portfolio? So, what Tony, for those of you who are not familiar with him, he is a product specialist, speaks to clients all day long, and helps them sort of navigate some of these decisions that they have to make. So, Tony, what would you kind of recommend for people who are evaluating these new products, and how should they think about, crypto, for example, in their portfolio?
Yeah, sure. So we're first off excited because we've been on, the side listening to clients for the last few years, and pretty much since 2017, we have absolutely heard from our clients that they, want to invest a little bit more in things that they prefer and that they believe in. And one of those is crypto. So, for the majority of our clients, they come to Wealthfront. We have a preset portfolio where we, assess their risk, and it's a great portfolio for them. And now all of a sudden we introduce a new asset class that pretty much everyone's aware of, and it's crypto. Crypto is volatile. There's a lot of uncertain things to it, which is actually why we're limiting clients to 10%. So what I would say is for the average client, it really depends on how much of that 10% you're willing to see kind of jump up and down. There's quite a lot of volatility associated with the asset class, but it's a great opportunity, especially for those maybe who are unsure of where crypto falls into their overall portfolio, to slowly add in exposure with crypto, with maybe Ethereum and Bitcoin, to also automate the rebalancing, tax loss harvesting, and dividend reinvesting. So it really depends on individual, but I'd say it's a great opportunity just to slowly kind of add that in as a diversified section.
Awesome. That's super helpful, I think, for anyone kind of evaluating these in the new framework and context. So Dan, we did launch the ability to customize uh, a couple of months ago at this point. For those of you not familiar, we did launch dozens of ETF options a little while ago in the spring. And so, Dan, any interesting insights we've seen from clients on, maybe what they're adding so far, what they're deleting, any fun things to share on that front so far?
Yeah. So as you might expect, a lot of our clients are particularly interested in sort of technology and innovation, and so we've seen a lot of our clients sort of take their diversified portfolio and tilt it more heavily towards technology, and then within technology, there's obviously a variety of directions that you can go. So that's definitely one theme. Socially responsible is another big one that we're seeing quite a bit of interest in. I think that's obviously all over the news lately, and clients are now looking for ways to align their investments with their values. And so we have a variety of ETFs that you can now include in your portfolio that give you a socially responsible tilt. And with this launch, what's actually really exciting is we can now go beyond sort of just the plain vanilla socially responsible ETFs to give you even more targeted exposure to specific causes that you might be interested in. So there's a minority leadership ETF that's available now. There's a women-led company ETF. There's a vegan climate ETF, which I had no idea was a thing.
Oh, wow.
And then there's a bunch of clean energy ETFs as well. So lots of different options within socially responsible now. And then just this morning, I was looking at the data, and it looks like crypto will also be sort of rising to the top of the list as well. So lots of different ways that people can sort of take a diversified portfolio that's automatically rebalanced and tax loss harvested, as Tony said, but tilt it to align with things that they're interested in.
Yeah, and I think that's what everyone internally has just been so excited for about this launch is just I think the knowledge of investing and the market right now among the audience that we're particularly going after is just at an all-time high. And so really being the place where people can kind of think of us as a sandbox to try on some of these new strategies, again, always with that context of here's how it's going to impact your long-term outcome, which I think is just such a hole in the market right now. So I'm excited to see what people try on, and just to take a quick break, just to welcome anyone new who came into the room. Welcome to the investing workshop. We are right now discussing our latest product launch at Wealthfront. As Dan and Tony have been explaining, we just added the ability to gain exposure to crypto in your Wealthfront portfolio, as well as hundreds of different ETF options that our research team has carefully vetted. And again, I just want to encourage everyone to ask questions. We would love to hear from you guys, or just even any feedback that you've been wanting to share with us about the product. Anything and everything is welcome. So you can either raise your hand and type a question in your bio, and Ellie and I will be kind of scanning the room. And you can also use the back channel feature that Clubhouse just recently rolled out. So if you want to message me directly, we would love to hear from you. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Dan, and just, what's the most exciting thing that you've seen from this launch so far, and how have you, as a leader of the product function, been thinking about products under this new framework of really allowing people more flexibility?
Yeah, I mean, so for me, I'm just excited by what you can now do with your Wealthfront portfolio. I think for a very long time, our framework for offering choice was very much like what Henry Ford did with the Model T. It was you could have sort of any portfolio you wanted as long as it was our standard globally diversified one. And I think we're entering sort of a new world with this launch and the features we built over the last couple months to we'll still offer the diversified portfolio, but give people choice where they want it. And there's a ton of different options that you can now include that basically reflect whatever you believe in. If you think that airlines are going to come back with the pandemic ending, we have an ETF for that. We had this really fun exchange internally yesterday where people were throwing out a bunch of different example ETFs, and the theme was we have an ETF for that. And so I think the options are are really just really amazing to see. And when you look at just consumer preferences in investing, the last 12 to 18 months has really been a tectonic shift. Fractional shares, trading going free across the board, the pandemic, and then sort of a market where 96% of stocks had a positive return in a 12-month period. Emerging interest in new asset classes like crypto. There's just been a ton of changes. And so consumers, like you said, Kate, at the beginning, now more than ever before, have more opinions, have more confidence when it comes to their investing. And really, we're trying to lean into that trend where people want to use Wealthfront in that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think there's a lot of fun things we can do just thematically with all the new options that we offer. And so I'm really looking forward to hearing from clients and just seeing the data on what they're actually adding as we expand into new territory. Um, Again, audience questions, don't be shy. You guys are quiet out there, so please feel free to ask us any burning questions you've had about the service. It doesn't even need to be about the launch specifically. So we would definitely love to hear from you. Tony, so I think one of the things that we have heard a lot from clients is that they want exposure to crypto, um, not only in their taxable accounts, but also in their IRAs. So tell us a little bit about how we've incorporated that and maybe share with the audience why we're excited on that front.
Yeah, this is something that I think, especially in the last few days, as we're getting ready to launch this, we realized how big of a moment this is because there's not many platforms out there that you can include crypto in your IRA. And so, with crypto and a taxable portfolio, let's say, we're going to keep you properly balanced, right around. Let's say you choose 10%. We're gonna perform automatic rebalancing for you and keep you right in line there. Um, and we'll do the same thing with an IRAs. And the great thing about IRAs is if you decide at some point maybe, hey, I'll just start with 5%. Let's just say you want to start a little bit lower. And then one day you're like, okay, let's go to 6 or 7%. With IRAs with no tax implications in there, and the tax advantages in there, we can immediately move you into that new allocation without any tax hit whatsoever. And so I think it's something for our clients and future clients that are considering signing up to really be aware of how much of an advantage that actually is. IRAs typically are meant for even a longer time frame. I think the majority of clients we speak to, they view their IRAs as something maybe 20, 30 years down the road for retirement. You're probably willing to take a little more risk and a little more volatility in there. And so I think it's a perfect opportunity to consider that in addition to using it in your taxable portfolio as well.
Anything else you want to say about taxes? I know taxes are definitely something you hear so much about from clients. So is there anything else that people should be thinking about as they are either making adjustments to their existing portfolios or creating new ones that they should be thinking about on the tax front?
Yeah, taxes are huge. Whenever you're going to make changes to a portfolio or move investments from one platform to another, you have to consider taxes. It's incredibly important. And I think one of the things that we built that's amazing here is if you decide you have a current existing portfolio, let's say, and you'd like to adjust your allocations, we're going to be tax aware and we're going to take into account that if we rebalance you now and if that were to cause maybe some tax hit, some tax liability like short-term capital gains, we'll wait to do it and we'll do it over time as dividends or more contributions come in, more additions to that portfolio. So I think if you're out there and you're saying, well, I love this idea of adding new ETFs, I love this idea of adding crypto, but I don't want to get hit with more taxes. No one wants to get hit with more taxes. This is a great opportunity to adjust your allocations and know that our software is going to be incredibly smart with it and only use funds sitting there in the portfolio and future funds to your advantage and to save you money there. So it's the best of both worlds.
Awesome. And I got some audience questions here for you, Tony. So I'm going to keep on this tax topic. So David asks, how do various strategies such as tax loss harvesting and others work on all the newly added ETFs?
Sure. I love that question because That's another thing that we took into mind here. So um, as long as the ETF that you're adding has some comparable ETF, and we tell you on our product, on the app, and the website, when you go to add an ETF, we'll say, hey, this ETF has an alternative ETF that we can use for tax loss harvesting. So as long as it does that, and the majority of the ETFs that we've added do offer that, we're going to be able to use that and tax loss harvest the way that we already did with the preset portfolios. So if you're familiar with, if you're in U.S. stocks and we use VTI, let's say, as one of our ETFs, and we'll also use the Schwab ETF to go back and forth, we can do the exact same thing with newly added ETFs when there is a comparable one. So you'll still continue to get what's truly best about our service, which is tax loss harvesting when you do this.
Yeah, and I think we just ran some pretty incredible research that showed that tax loss harvesting provides a value that, is multiple of the fee that we charge. And so, we like to really share the value of that because I think people have just seen how incredibly powerful it can be over the long term. So that was definitely, as Tony mentioned, something we thought a lot about as we expanded our service. So I got a couple more audience questions here. Dan, this one's for you. Amit asks, how can I find these funds on Wealthfront? So walk us through a little bit about how you can actually discover all these new choices on the app.
Yeah, so it's relatively straightforward. If you have an existing investment account with us and you go to your the account page for that account, if you look for a edit portfolio button, that'll sort of jump you into the experience where you can start editing your existing allocation. And within there, there's a button that says add investment, and that'll take you to the browse experience where you can search for any ETF that we support today, and also sort of browse through various categories that exist. And I'd encourage people to do that. I was personally blown away by just the sheer selection that exists and sort of what you can actually invest in via an ETF. I just had no idea.
Yeah, and do you think we'll at some point maybe publish what people are picking? Because I know me personally, I definitely get overwhelmed. So it'd be fun to see, what some of my peers are selecting and make selections based on that.
Yeah, I think that's actually a great idea. I think there's some really fascinating data on how people are constructing their allocations.
Okay, we got another question. What are the fees associated with the Grayscale ETFs and how does that impact the Wealthfront portfolio? Dan, do you want to take that one?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question one more time?
Sure. Are there fees associated with the Grayscale trusts, and how is that incorporated into the Wealthfront portfolio?
Yeah, so as with all our ETFs, the some of them do carry expense ratios, and the Grayscale funds are no different. They do have and this is all sort of available to you in the app when you're browsing the funds. They have a 2.5%, I believe, expense ratio on those. So it's definitely higher than what we would typically choose for a globally diversified portfolio, where we try to pick things that have sort of very low expense ratios. But for someone who's interested in and believes in crypto and sort of what that's going to do over the long run, you might conclude that that's a worthwhile fee to pay to get exposure to it. And so that's all available to you in the app. It's relatively easy to see once you're choosing when to add those funds, and available on all of the ETFs we support.
Awesome. And then we got an interesting suggestion here from Steve. He loves our tax loss harvesting. The one thing he is requesting, which I think is a good idea, we should take into consideration if we don't already do this, is make it easier to see which funds offer tax loss harvesting without going into the details. So some sort of indicator near each fund, which I think is a good suggestion there.
That's a great idea. We've talked about that a bunch, and sort of adding filters to our browse experience. So there's a bunch of enhancements to that planned over the coming months. So yeah, stay tuned.
Okay, this is a non-launch related question. Is there any future plan to remove the minimum amount you can transfer between Wealthfront accounts? I think there's like $100 minimum right now. It'd be considered probably with fractional shares updating that, but any comments on
Yeah,
that, Dan?
we it's not something we've looked at sort of with a particularly high priority lately, but generally a theme for us is how do we eliminate the barriers to investing for all of our current clients and then prospective clients. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we looked at doing that as we look at other ways to reduce barriers in general across the product.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, this one's for you again, Dan. You're in the hot seat right now. So how is Wealthfront, Andrew would like to know, how is Wealthfront imagining clients will use these new ETFs? Are they meant to be added to their current portfolio, or is it for people like me who want most of their money in Wealthfront's recommended portfolio, but want to use these new ETFs for separate side bets, so to speak?
Yeah, the answer is it's really up to you, and we've seen both use cases when we talk to clients. Some people want to take our diversified portfolio and tilt it towards a particular thing that they're interested in. Other people will open a separate account and try and keep the money they intend for sort of a balanced portfolio separate from the money that they intend for more sort of exotic interests that they might have. And so I personally am in that second camp. I like to keep my Wealthfront diversified portfolio untouched and keep all of the other stuff separate. But it's really up to you.
Yeah, I think many of us internally at Wealthfront fall into that second bucket as well. It's probably a good testament to the product we've built. So, awesome. I think, let's see here. I think we already covered that question. Here's a good one. Is there any plan to support more DeFi investment accounts, BlockFi, Nexo, etc.? I know that's something we've looked into, but Dan, is there anything additional you would want to add to that question and that topic? I know DeFi is something that we're all personally very interested in internally.
Yeah, nothing particularly specific, but as you said, it's part of this sort of strategy of putting clients more in control and trying to give them more ways to grow their wealth in whatever way they want to entails a lot of attention paid to new and emerging asset classes. So crypto is the first example of that, where we're starting to give clients the ability to invest in that with this latest launch. But I would expect that sort of over the next 12 to 18 months, you're going to see us try to give clients more options than we have in the past. And DeFi is obviously certainly one that's of particular interest to us and one that we're looking at.
Awesome. Let's see. Okay, next question. How do I start to transition to include these other asset classes without a major selling and rebalancing of my portfolio? It's a good question. Tony, you want to take that one?
Sure. Yeah. So this is, I think Dan kind of mentioned the specifics. If you were to log into the app and you were to click on your, portfolio, let's say your taxable investment account, directly below kind of the asset classes where we list them, there's going to be a button that says Edit Portfolio. So you want to click that button. And in this, you can then add ETFs or add other investments, it'll say. And you kind of just move the lever in terms of percentages of which other ETFs and crypto that you want to add right there. And so that's pretty straightforward. But I think the big key and probably the point of this question is, how do I avoid taxes and paying taxes just because I want to add a few different ETFs or crypto? And that's where our software and that's where our product team has been working on it and built a way for you to add new investments and allow our software to transition you tax efficiently. So you're likely not going to get hit with major taxes. Maybe if you have some long-term capital gains, we might transition you right away, but likely our software is going to look at it and become very tax efficient in moving you that. So you likely will not have to worry about that.
And I would just jump in and add to that one of the requests we've heard quite a bit from customers as we've rolled out the ability to customize your portfolio is offering more granular control over how you realize taxes when you're making changes to the portfolio. And so that's actually an area that we're actively looking at how we make it so that if you'd like to trust our tax optimized software, which is very sort of tax sensitive, as Tony said, you can. But also, if you have a very specific thing you're trying to accomplish when it comes to taxes, we can make that possible as well. And so it's all in the theme of putting you more in control of how you invest.
Yeah, that is one of the beautiful things about using software to do all these things. We can optimize around that. Um, all right, we have another question here in the queue. What are the advantages and disadvantages of ETF-based investing compared to single stocks? I'll let both of you jump in on this one because I'm sure you both have different different opinions, Dan and Tony.
Tony, you go first.
Sure. So ETFs are great. ETFs offer a wide exposure to a whole asset classes, and a lot of times, and where they can track a whole benchmark. Like if you want to buy a U.S. stock ETF like VTI, you're gonna have exposure to basically the entire U.S. market, and they're super low expense, right? So we built our software on that and our platform on that. Now, individual stock investing, if you were to use it in a diversified way where you'd buy all the individual stocks that maybe make up an ETF, you could use that like we do with direct indexing, where it actually replaces the ETF and it gives you even better exposure to an asset class and allows our software to enhance our tax loss harvesting. So we don't I wouldn't recommend going out and picking stocks, but if you're using individual stocks in a way that gives you the same exposure that an ETF will, like our software does, you're getting the best of both in terms of tax loss harvesting and even direct exposure.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. I think what we see from customers is ETFs are a really simple way if you don't want to actually do a lot of the research on underlying stocks. The real benefit of single stock investing would be if you have a very particular opinion about a company within a sector that you believe in that's going to do well, then obviously ETF is not a great fit for that. It's really just a question of sort of the level of flexibility that you get with an ETF and the amount of time you need to spend researching, as well as what Tony said with the benefits of tax loss harvesting.
Awesome. We got another good question in the queue. Tony, do you mind explaining for everyone what are the benefits of getting exposure to crypto on Wealthfront versus other platforms like Coinbase? And maybe go through some of the differences of what we offer versus a Coinbase, for example.
Sure. So a platform like Coinbase, or BlockFi, others out there, you can get direct exposure by actually buying the coins, owning that coin directly and being able to transfer it or use it maybe for payments later on. Okay. With Wealthfront, the benefit of this is a couple things. One, you don't have to open a new app, get started, open a cold wallet. That just sometimes takes more time than you want. Wealthfront is going to offer you exposure through a few clicks, takes a few minutes, not even probably, and it allows you to add the crypto as part of your diversified portfolio versus completely kind of having this separate account of just crypto and relying on that. Now with Wealthfront, we're going to give you exposure through Grayscale funds to Bitcoin and Ethereum, and hopefully eventually even more options there. But the big key is being able to add the exposure as part of diversification, continue to have automated rebalancing and dividend reinvestment, as opposed to a Coinbase where you're just owning that directly and you're only owning the coins directly.
Awesome. All right. Well, we are at the half-hour mark. So I think with that, any final thoughts that you guys want to leave the audience with, Dan and Tony? I think we'll wrap after that. Everyone, thank you so much for all of your questions.
No, just I'm looking forward to hearing the feedback from people on what they're finding useful and what else they want to see, and hope people enjoy the flexibility that they now have.
Yeah, and this is really a true testament to our team and our company really listening to our clients and listening to people who've been asking for this. So we're excited to see what else we're going to offer over the next few months and years because we listen to our clients. So if you have any feedback, send our PS team an email. We do a great job of really taking your feedback and implementing that in our future product roadmap. So we're just excited.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And again, if you do have feedback, email our PS team. Like Tony said, we do listen to you guys. So hope you all enjoy the new features, and we look forward to another update soon with more exciting stuff to announce. Bye, everyone.